The Southern Poverty Law Center, the nonprofit specializing in civil rights and monitoring hate groups, well, they list 10 ways in which a community can fight hate, should it rear its ugly head. Things like speak up, support the victims, teach acceptance. Well, there are two others on the list: act and create an alternative. Those are both being accomplished by what has just been completed along Boise's Greenbelt. Nearly a year ago, several downtown tunnels were spray painted with profanity and hate-filled anti-Semitic graffiti. One of those is right next to the Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial. They were quickly covered, but left behind were empty walls, a blank canvas just begging for some sort of covering, something the opposite of hate. So Boise's Arts and History Commission, Boise City Council, the Wasmuth Center, Boise State, local artists and stakeholders, they all decided to act and create an alternative. A 6-day project to fill the 8th Street Tunnel with color and kindness, tolerance instead of the alternative. It's been said, the beginning is the most important part of the work. Well, rolling out the cart for Addie Boswell is the beginning. But so is laying out the drop cloth, pulling out the tape, and smoothing out the surface so she can get to the other important part of the work.
I feel kind of stressed out until I get started. Then once I get paint in my hands, then I relax, I guess. Once we start getting the bright colors out, that's when I get excited. It's the tree.
Addie is a muralist from Portland, Oregon.
I'm happiest when I'm covered in paint and out in the community painting a wall somewhere.
Painting this wall, this tunnel under an old railroad bridge, is a response to a recent incident of racist graffiti, meant to be a message of hate considering its location, leading to Boise's Anne Frank Human Rights Memorial. Covering that canvas of contempt is what Addie was asked to do.
There's a line in Rent, the musical, that the answer to war isn't peace, it's creation. And I've always loved that line. I think, that's the best thing you can do.
Aided by her daughter's hula hoop,
I think I'm gonna have to get her a new one too, because I got it all painty.
Addie says the idea is centered on a series of circles.
It does help with the circles.
Filled with what it's like to be a Boisean.
Come help us if you want. I'll give you a paintbrush.
What it's like to step in another person's shoes, to see from another point of view.
Inclusivity was the big thing, because it was in answer to this graffiti that was anti-Semitic. This was all about inclusion. So I started with just real people from Boise that these are all representative of, and different ways they've stood up to injustice and just shine their light is the kind of phrase that I'm using, different ways they shine their light. At the end, we have a Jewish grandmother who's based on my friend Ruth. She's lighting her Shabbat candles. Then we have a guy in a hand cycle. I think of him as a disabled vet. He has the American flag flying from his bike. And a laborer, maybe a Latino laborer who's working in the fields. We have a refugee mom who's sending her little boy off to school.
Even the inclusion of nature is a nod to the indigenous people.
Yeah, some trees, some sunflowers. The blue along the bottom is meant to represent kind of the river, and also just how important water is to the whole, the whole world.
The entire mural, top to bottom, is grounded in the chestnut tree, symbolic of Anne Frank's connection to the outside world while she hid from Nazis in an attic.
In all the overlapping circles, we've got all these symbols that represent different cultural groups and different things people are proud of, so symbols and flags. And it's all kind of, mixed together in a mosaic, because we're all connected, whether we want to be or not, so.
All squeezed into about 1,000 square feet.
Oh, it's never enough space, but I jammed as much as I could in there.
And she did it with the help of dozens of actual Boiseans.
Every time I walk by, I'll smile at it.
I think we've had maybe 60 or 70 all together helping out. It's been really cool.
It brings me a lot of joy that there's lots of communities here being represented, because they all deserve visibility, in my opinion.
Because, Addie says, this is more our mural than hers.
So the more people who get their hands on the walls, the more they take ownership of it, and the more they protect it, honestly, and take care of the art over its lifetime. So I think that's what public art's about, really.
Ooh, cool.
Thanks.
Oh, and it's also about the reaction.
Wow, beautiful.
Lots of positive reinforcement. That's kind of nice.
Wow.
Picture of that.
Good job.
Wow. What do you see? I like that she's touching it. That's great.
Wow. Turned out so nice.
Addie hopes those who do take the time to look at it see all the layers woven into it. and the figurative and literal light at the end of the tunnel.
So you get this feeling of, as you're passing through, there's kind of darkness surrounding you, but you have that like shining light. And then you come out into the Wasmus Center, which is like filled with light and this very like serene, peaceful place. And you kind of like, you know, you let the breath out after you pass through the tunnel. That's the feeling we're going for. We'll see.
Looks pretty awesome. Addie says they still haven't come up with a name for the mural, but they are taking suggestions. She's thinking something to do with light, as she said. The light we shine, you know, something along those lines. And while Addie hopes people do take the time to look at the mural and see how all it has to show, there's a word of warning with this. That section of the Greenbelt, if you're familiar with it, is at the confluence of a couple of blind bends and a downhill slope, a section where bike riders and scooters just kind of zip through. So be careful, but do take the time to check it out.